I'm going to talk about what I listened today, what I experienced today, and hopefully I can figure out a way to redeem myself, and I can get over thinking that maybe it's time that I get over thinking that I'm actually going to be experiencing a real relationship, and I need to pay attention to my feelings. When I take it, I just woke up from a nap. When I take in information, okay, there are a lot of accusers in the world, and I have also noticed that when you uh, when you take when you stop speaking, and you're just sitting around thinking, and it may seem like the computer is able to pull stuff out of your mind sometimes, but it's so minuscule in comparison to the full thought that's going on inside of yourself, and it can make you feel like somebody is listening to you and knows all about you, but that can't be proven if their information is not thorough enough. And why would they want to listen to your thoughts anyway? Is a better question. I think maybe you can use it as a way to maybe try and come up with a defense or a uh, a redemption for your own self if you feel that you're being accused of things that are not true. Okay, so I'm gonna try and start describing how I experienced the day today. Um, I went on my walk and I saw a man running towards me with his shirt off. And so I turned my back to him and waited for him to pass. And then I walked around the curve, and there was a white truck that opened the airport gate, and three vehicles went proceeded behind him, and they got then another white truck came, and seven vehicles preceded by him behind him, and I still had that. I mean, of course I can see that maybe some of the things are in my own writing about numbers, or what I've discussed this morning about the tree and the 7 years of sobriety, but I just don't understand why anybody cares. I mean, why would you go to the extra of your day to make that move? What does it do for you on the other side of the equation? If I already have put together a thought just to talk to myself, which is what I'm trying to do to keep myself healthy, why does anybody care to make those kind of things? I don't know. Um, I listened to Joe's um, conversation about confidence, and he said that if you've destroyed these old, this is what I picked up on, if you've destroyed these old structures of how you used to conduct yourself to try and to be in romantic relationships, what is the structure that you have created to replace those, was his question that seemed to catch my attention most. And also he brought up something old that I said a long time ago, that when I was at the end of my 20s, that if I ever won the lottery, that I would give the money away. Well, I used to have a lot of money in my bank account, and it back then in my 20s, when I would um, get low about things, I couldn't find fulfillment in a lot of the things I was doing. So to say that if I won the lottery, I would give the money away was only just basically saying that that being rich to me, if everybody knew about it, seemed like it would be a nuisance because people would be flocking around you because they wanted to get things from you instead of actually caring about you. You could say that with a lot of ways that you could perceive life. It wasn't that I didn't want. It wasn't that I think that money is a bad thing. It's the fact that I think being used is a bad thing. Because find out who's there if nobody knows how much money you have. The same thing is kind of true about whether it's a blessing or not if you have a your your title, I guess you would say. Your title is considered that of something that nobody could benefit from, and so they're not coming to like after you like some uh, let me see if I can come up with an example. If you perceived some person in the business world as being way at the top of their field as the most expert or the most impressive, whatever words that you want to describe them, they're the top of the top, the best of the best person. And you yourself are looking at that person as a way to gain those qualities in yourself. You're not looking at the person as somebody that you want to experience love and care with. So I question all kinds of stuff like that. The fact of having to deal with people who are seeing you as a commodity to like make sure that they get to have that experience of feeling like they're the top of the top or whatever, so they can find that security or whatever it is they admire about who they are looking at. Okay, that's not ways in which you feel a human goodness. It's not. And the thing about charity is now I'm not putting things in context of romantic relationships because if I do that, if I try to think about separating just being out in a community from thinking about a romantic relationship, which it's hard to do that separation because uh, you would think that most people have sexual motivations. I don't know if that's the truth because uh, my own situation about my abstinence. But if you try and separate your thoughts from sexual motivations to think consider charity, are you when you say charity, are you saying that you're talking about somebody that seems like they're struggling and you want to help them in an empathetic kind of way? Like, okay, I've seen plenty of old ladies before in out and about where they're having to pick things up, and the old tendency in me was to try and you want to help. If you would see somebody struggling to lift something or think through a situation. You have like the type of person who will blurt out an answer because they can see what you're trying to formulate in your head, or they can see you're struggling trying to formulate something in your head, and they'll just blurt it out. Okay, well, that's not charity. That slows a person down from being able to get those thoughts out or off their tongue or out of their mind. And if somebody is needs to develop strength in themselves, and you're following them around because you want to make sure that they're doing okay and picking things up for them so that they're taken care of, they don't develop the strength that they need. So every time, like, these are things that I coach myself about. Anytime you let someone overly help you, even if that person might think that they're being kind, it's not kind, because the it's important for a person to develop strengths within themselves. And if they're depending on someone else too much for the things that they need to do, that's hindering them. There was a conversation that I heard from Dr. Phil, I think it was, about rehab, and he described seeing a person who's struggling to turn on the light. And he said it may take you three, I don't know, I'm going to be making up the time because I can't remember the numbers. He said it may take you 3 seconds to turn on the light switch for that person, and you might have to sit there and watch that person for 30 seconds or a minute trying to get that light on. But if you get in the way and you go start turning that light on for the person every single time, then they're going to stay slow. But if you allow that slowness for the person to get around and do what they need to do, their speed is going to pick up because they're learning how to figure out how to do it themselves. Which I think that sort of connects to learning how to do your own wiring and plumbing. It's not nobody it is not a bad thing to let people to have their alone time so that they can figure out what they need. Because if you're being overly helpful, it it stirs up strife sometimes, because it's the learning part of being able to be independent, which is important. And there are so many things that continuously go out in the world as to give us an easier way to do things. And part of the evaluation, I think, is most important is to focus on the strength of the mind and the body, more so than I what how nice your vehicle is, or what all um, things that you have bought, which are not a part of your body. That does not seem like a good value. I, Even when I was in my 20s, I thought I would like to have a really large house so that I could be an entertainer and have guests at my house. But when I'm at my age now, it is not something that I would want to do, because the bigger your house is, the more you have to take care of it, and that the more the larger amount of things that you have to take care of, such as cleaning a bunch of different rooms, if those rooms are not used when you don't have guests, they're not important. And that's the main thing. What do you use when you don't have guests, because you're going to be collecting cobwebs trying to keep things for people that are not of any value for yourself. And now you can transfer that thought to your mind. Now, the other thing that I noticed was now I know that with the lottery comment that I know I have been told that I'm going to be having my own um, inheritance, or I'm going to be able to manage my own funding myself. It's not going to be, I'm not going to require anybody to help me do that. And I'm not going to talk about any of that with anybody, because that's not anything that you want to attract attention about. It's very personal. And a lot of that goes with kind of, I just woke up, so this conversation is a little bit, but I'm still gonna keep working at the speech. I think the speech is important. um I'm not gonna repeat myself about, you don't want to be used, and so you want to keep something secret. But once again, we're back to the fact of, when you start closing yourself off and trying to keep secrets, you're not developing yourself enough. And so nope. I sat there and gave myself a speech earlier today about how I kept at my writing for so long. I didn't care if anybody ever read it. And then I started thinking that everybody was reading my writing, and and I got into that habit of deleting it. And then I stopped deleting it, and that um, I think that exercise was somewhat helpful. And also, it transfers into me thinking about speaking more often on the video camera. It doesn't really matter to me about being judged for the kinds of things that I decide to do on YouTube, or how I might be judged. It matters if I think that my content is useful for myself, because that's kind of like keeping a guest room. It, it needs to be beneficial to my own rehabilitation. And unfortunately, I have had way too many things to learn about and try and rehabilitate myself from, so that I can strengthen myself. And I still have a lot of uh, what is it? I don't have any kind of idea where the future is going to be taking me. Kind of like I have no idea about that relationship with Rin, whether or not it was anything that would ever become a physical reality. Well, that I kind of felt like, I'm still not really sure, but if okay, if what somebody is doing sometimes seems like, I don't know, is if the way somebody responds to you seems more like an echo, like whenever I heard that little small music piece after I said something about how I predicted my own loneliness for the day that I wanted to feel good about. Well, I felt a feel good feeling for a few seconds, and then I felt myself go down as to, that was very brief, and I would like more engagement than just, um, you know, that small piece. It's like, if it feels like you're being echoed, you're not feeling like that you're getting to know the other person enough. Even if they're exposing to you their music and their music sounds good, if it's your thoughts coming back towards you, then you're not feeling like you're connecting enough to know how the other person's thoughts are. So that was the main thing about that. Now, um, I'm gonna have to make another video about what kind of psychological structures that I plan on building, but I think that, like, I'm not a, there's when I talk about accusers, I'm not a, the topic of egos and arrogance got brought up, and I'm like, feeling disgusted by sin is not arrogance. That's not what it is. It's disgusted by the fact that you don't like the way that you're observing um, the values that you see in the world. That's not arrogance, and that's a lot to do with with what you've experienced throughout your life. If you know something is not fulfilling for yourself, you're not going to look at somebody doing something and think it's going to be fulfilling for them. You're going to see like a train wreck headed, and that's not going to make you feel good. And that's not being superior, because you know that you already had to learn the things that you had to learn. You know the things that didn't work for you. The thing about snake oil, like when you want to be in a relationship really bad, and all these people who don't want to be in a relationship with you are trying to promote all these products and things that you should do to secure this relationship, and then you never get the relationship. You just get a bunch of people trying to sell you things. It's useless. It's all useless. You can spend that time on yourself and figure out how to get to know yourself instead of doing all of that, because the more that you try to take those recommendations of what it is, what it takes to become the person that is lovable, the less lovable you feel. And if you don't feel lovable, it's gonna it's gonna it's gonna come out in the way that you behave, and then it'll have an effect if you actually do get put in the circumstance of being with a person, because you're going to be like all bogged down with all this like extra attachments of things that you're trying to do to impress this person. That's not necessary. It's not necessary. People are going to attract to um, other people who have somewhat similar type of values in what they think is important. Okay, you're not you usually, I don't think you would find two people hanging around each other who thought what the other one was doing was not a good thing to do, because they wouldn't want that habit or lifestyle to rub off on them. So that's what I think anyways. I wouldn't I wouldn't hang around a person that was doing stuff that I thought was bad for myself. That's not arrogance. It's a lot of that viewpoint of the world is like, value my heart, motherfucker. That's it. That's it. Okay? Don't cheapen the fucking world with things that are not important. You can't. I mean, it's just that's all it is. That's all it is. There are so many things that are hollow desires about thinking that you should have to get to this certain place to be loved, and it's not the truth. It is not the truth. It is not the truth. Reach into yourself, get to know whatever it is that's needs to be worked on or accepted, and fucking get after it. If there are people who value you, then maybe you'll meet them, but don't ever stop valuing yourself. You do not have to put on a polished performance for and hide parts of yourself. Now, I am not saying that, okay, there is a fine line between practicing something regularly and getting good at it and hiding parts of yourself because you don't want to feel lowly about yourself. That's not the same thing. Okay, when you talk about confidence, a person who has practiced something and has gotten good at it, such as maybe being a good speech giver or being organized in how they put together what they're presenting, or somebody who's into their physical fitness and sticks with it regularly, or somebody who whatever a person is good at, that's okay to be good at it, and that should be something that a person takes pride in. And I still say the word pride, because pride is, there are two different kinds of pride. One is the bad kind, is wanting a self-esteem that is only about trying to get this kind of love that has to do with with being having more than the rest of the world. Now, when you say more, I'm talking about you, that type of pride that you want to be at this like level and have people beneath you, or the type of pride that you just keep on doing all these things so you can try and fit into a group. Those are false kinds of pride, but actually feeling um, a strength and I think the attitude of you know what, motherfucker, you're not going to put me down kind of thing. I'm not going to be squashed. It's not a beef with the person. It's that you're not going to play that game of inferiority and superiority, because that's not a real game. You get nothing from anybody who doesn't take good care of theirself or doesn't value theirself. You don't feel good when you see things like that. That is not trying to feel to feel disgusted by those kinds of things is not feeling superior over a person. It's feeling heartache or disgust that the world could ever come to that kind of condition. Those are different types of. It needs to be explained better. A morality disgust is that you're disgusted about the condition of a heart. You're not disgusted with a person. You don't usually know the person, but you know the way that things have gone for yourself, so you can, I guess you can imagine, sort of, or feel things in the atmosphere. You can feel when something feels like it's not emotionally good enough or heartfelt enough. It feels fraudulent, and you're like, you don't want it. That's what I tried to talk about, confidence con job. there was a little while you would see these people just um, getting on the internet and trying to be glamour people, and I guess if you really wanted to get in depth and try and change something into what it is not, and try and pick all that apart and turn it into symbolism and everything else, you might could extract something from that. But the point is that is not charitable to anybody, not to yourself, and it's not to anybody who is consuming those pictures. It's wasteful because nobody wants to look at anybody's beauty who is not their self, and so that's like you're wasting your own time and you're wasting that other person's time. I don't connect with things like that. I don't understand things like that. And to try and put like anything uh, sexual out in the world without planning on delivering your heart or delivering sex seems fraudulent. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? I don't think that you should do anything to keep somebody hooked on something which you never plan on delivering. Those are bad things to do. There's a lot of bad things to do. But I am not fucking arrogant. I'm very fucking hard. I work really hard to try and keep my heart uh, uh, you know, feeling like I think it should. Because if it doesn't feel like it should when I'm doing my day to day, then I have to do some work with it. Hey, boys and girls, that's enough. That's enough. Okay. So there's my part of what I want to talk about with isolation. Hey, okay, that's enough. That's enough. Isolation and some other things. I'm going to try and do this one again, but I'm going to go ahead and post this one because I think if I watch this one, I can get some more articulate ways of putting it together. But it's a good start. It's a good start.